My boxing career was born, bred, raised, brewed right here on HBO. I came from being a boy to a man as a commentator as well as a fighter. So I just want to say thank you to everybody involved inside the ring as I shocked the world on HBO. And last but not least, I do want to say thank God for finding me the angel by the name of Artie Curry. So thank you everybody at HBO. God bless y'all.
This is Roy Jones Jr.'s closing statements on the final broadcast of HBO Boxing. Truly an emotional moment for Roy and the viewers who tuned in. Everyone knows and remembers Roy's dazzling performances on HBO, his controversy at the Seoul Games, but not so much of the incredibly dark and discouraging beginnings of Roy's pro career, which led to a network rolling the dice and signing Jones, forever changing his career for the best. This is a tale of how HBO saved a fighter's career. After returning from the Seoul Games, Roy will begin his transition to the pros at the age of 20 years old. Immediately upon the start of his career, he will run into promotional issues after his third pro bout. By the time Roy started the pros, the superpowers in boxing had monopolized the sport, where you were practically forced to sign with these promotions or be squeezed. Since Roy was robbed of gold, he could not operate like a Ray Leonard upon turning pro, so he could not skip over the promotion to the network to show his fights, despite being one of the most talented coming into the pros. Since Roy and his partners formed their own boxing promotion, Square Ring Inc., that made Roy blocked off from the rest of the boxing world to flourish, to where you have boxing promotions like Don King, Bob Arum, and others practically gatekeep fighters of certain skill levels from fighting Roy. These fighters don't have to be signed to these promotions. These quality club/journeyman status fighters may get steady work with these superpower promotions, and if they were to go and fight a blacklisted fighter outside of the bubble of the likes of a Roy Jones Jr., then they will be in risk of not being called up for future cards. The fighters that were available for Roy should have not only been fighting him, but should have never been in the ring to begin with. Fighters that were medically suspended in other states, an unsanctioned commission bout, and in one case, it was a fighter posing as the guy who Roy was listed to fight. Roy's early opponents makes Jake Paul's opponents look like Naoya Inoue's first 10 fights by comparison. Due to this, it will lead to the infamous Tony Waddles, followed up to the Ricky Stackhouse fight. On July 14, 1990, the 8-0 Roy Jones Jr. was scheduled to face the 16-14 Dennis Johnson. Dennis dropped out due to not coming to an agreement in regards to his purse. The 16-9 Duran Richards, who just came off losing to Julian Jackson, was brought in for Dennis's replacement. The fight will go as planned, with a nice large gate of 2,100 spectators. Roy will brutally put away Derwin in the first minute of the first round. A day later, the local news journal editor, Junior Ingram, will find out the man that Roy had obliterated in the first round was not Derwin Richards. This was after photos and signatures of the two didn't match, and Derwin himself confirming he was not in Florida fighting Roy, as he was working security at a correctional facility in Houston, Texas. The identity of the fake Derwin Richards happened to be the 0-2 Tony Waddles from Oklahoma, which that makes even more sense since he couldn't last a minute. Since this was brought to the public's attention, the Florida Commission's assistant director did take some responsibility for not seeing these offenses taking place, as they were busy attending other pre-fight responsibilities. However, this case was handed over to the state attorney, which launched an investigation of possible crimes committed. The original contract of the fight stated that Richards would be paid $2,000. However, Waddles, who filled in for the fill-in, was only paid $700 from fight manager Elvis Belt. Both the fighter manager, Elvis Belt, and the matchmaker, Jerome Pete, was charged with grand theft fraud, resulting in Roy and his partners' Florida licenses to be suspended. The criminal trial was by jury. Belt stated that everyone involved with the event knew of the fraud taking place. This was common practice of fighters fighting under an assumed name, which following the career of Buck Smith, he is telling the truth. This resulted in Belt to be acquitted of all criminal charges. However, Jerome Pete was sentenced to 6 months probation. Roy's next fight, 2 months later, will be a risky one, as it was unsanctioned by the Florida Commission. This will be a 4-round KO victory against the 18-11 Robin Williams. The following year in 1991, Roy will face Ricky Stackhouse. Stackhouse somehow managed to be cleared by the Florida Commission to fight Roy, as he was suspended in New York for failing exams, which is pointed to brain deterioration. Stackhouse, who came in awfully dry, which shows signs that he not once warmed up backstage, was brutally put away in 46 seconds of the first round.
Now this is how a fighter gets hurt. Look how dry Ricky Stackhouse is. He has not even broken a sweat coming into this opening round. And with a young tiger of fast starting like Roy Jones is, this is over.
Since Roy is technically an unsigned fighter outside of Florida, in most cases of an unsigned talent, they may get a dream chance of fighting on an undercard to an event as a one-off fight. Roy will get that opportunity in 1992 against former welterweight champion, the 48-9 Jorge Vaca, at a catchweight of 156 pounds on the undercard of Iran Barkley versus Darren Van Horn for the IBF title. This pay-per-view was promoted by Main Events. Roy, who can no longer make junior middleweight, better yet this catchweight, came in 2 pounds overweight. Jorge backed out. This was a very tough situation because this is a fight Roy needs more than Jorge needs. Lou Duva stepped in and he was able to convince Jorge 2 hours before the supposed bell rings for their fight to fight Roy. The fight will go on as scheduled and Roy will put Vaca away in the second half of the first round.
That's the fight right there, and it was that right hand that was down by his waist.
Roy will get another shot on another undercard against the 17-4 Art Sawano, who is 1-4 in his last 5 fights. A complete mismatch, Roy will put Serrano away in the first round due to Serrano's reaction upon getting knocked down. Vic Draculich immediately waved the fight off. This whole time, Roy was ranked within the top 10 of the WBA, IBF, WBC, and USBA. However, he was being gatekept because he won't sign to a major promotion. Roy would have a rare opportunity to face number 6 ranked by the WBC and WBA former contender Jorge Castro in a 10-round non-title bout. Roy would earn a unanimous decision. Now ranked high by all belt organizations, he was able to headline his own fight on the USA Network against the 24-0 Glenn Thomas in a 10-round non-title bout. Roy was able to shine on a larger platform and get the TKO win in the 8th round. At the end of 1992, after being handed scraps, gatekept, and shielded away from becoming the most talked about new face in the sport, HBO, seeing the potential of Roy, will pretty much give him an audition or will lead to a multi-fight deal to showcase his skills in front of a large audience against what would be his best opponent in a 12-round regional title match against the 15-3 Percy Harris.
Despite a 19-0 record, Jones's career has not exactly skyrocketed the way you might have thought. For the most part, this career has taken place in obscurity, unmemorable fights against utterly forgettable or already forgotten opponents. Tonight, Roy Jones comes out of hiding and plans to show the boxing world what he does best.
Tonight is my first step towards the middleweight championship. I want it so bad, I can taste it.
Harris had given every opponent up to that point trouble, which led him, in his fight prior to Roy, winning the IBF Intercontinental title against Thomas Tate. Roy, on his HBO debut, will put on a show, a new level of speed and flash that audiences have not seen in the sport.
I don't fear what you've got, but Harris is in serious trouble again. And Jones, aping Ray Leonard, throws his gloves in the air before trying to pound Harris back to the canvas.
In a fight like this, it's actually better if it goes more than a round because you can really see the range of this fighter. It can be a double-edged sword, as that fighter may get overly aggressive and forget what got his opponent hurt and make mistakes leading to an unimpressive show.
Percy Harris gives Lamar Parks all kinds of trouble, and he's a solid puncher. We're really seeing something tonight in Roy Jones.
However, with Roy, he was dominating the fight, picking his shots and landing beautifully, to later perfectly set up the highlight reel finish. This is a level of patience, discipline, and artistry that is not taught. This clip here perfectly sums up what was being achieved.
It was such a classic performance and so beautiful that at the moment Ali hit the knockout punch, Foreman began to go. Ali followed him around, and Ali had his right cocked for one more punch, but he never threw it. He didn't want to ruin the aesthetic of this man going down with a clumsy punch on the way down.
Roy knew his assignment, and he executed it.
Left and a right as he backs up and moves away from Harris. Another right cross. Harris in trouble again. Can Harris make it out of round 4? Not without going down.
That's it.
And Tony Orlando has seen enough.
This kid is just so far superior skill-wise to anything I've seen in quite some time.
You didn't expect this to be a wipeout, Gil.
Absolutely not. Harris has been in again. He beat Thomas Tate.
This will secure Roy's position with HBO, where HBO will use their power and influence to represent Roy and get him the opportunities and fights that he should get if he was signed with a major promotion, spawning a Hall of Fame career as one of the greatest to ever do it. And on top of that, this is a tale of how HBO saved a boxer's career. For more tales, be sure to like, share, and if you're new, subscribe to the Patreon for Patreon-backed projects and early access. This being on the tale of Floyd Mayweather versus Ricky Hatton. I'm Alpha Sancho, and I'm out.